Discover 8 amazing life-changing secrets from Flávio Augusto to transform your financial future. The words leapt off the screen, dazzling Sarah with a flicker of hope. For a moment, amidst the clutter of bills and the echoes of her children's laughter, she felt the weight of her struggles lift. Sarah, a single mother in the quaint town of Maplewood, America, had been grinding at the local diner during the day and cleaning houses at night, all for her 2 sweet kids. Yet here, tucked between the everyday monotony, was an invitation, a chance to change her life forever. Could this really be it? She whispered to herself, hands trembling with a mix of excitement and anxiety. After longing for change, she took a breath, her heart racing as thoughts of a better future flashed before her eyes, her children free to dream, to thrive, to fly beyond the limits imposed by their tight budget. Leaning on her last few dollars, she signed up for the seminar. The instant Sarah joined the virtual meeting, a buzz filled the air. She could almost taste the ambition through her screen as Flávio Augusto spoke with passion, sharing secrets that felt like golden nuggets of wisdom. Tears pricked her eyes, mixing joy with the reckoning of her reality. This is my moment, she thought fiercely. But the euphoria was short-lived. Emily, her lifelong friend and anchor, pulled her aside the next day. Let us be real, Sarah, she implored, brows furrowed. You've got 2 kids and bills piling up. What makes you think this'll work? The words stung, like a cold splash of water on her warm dreams. Sarah's heart sank as the chasm opened between them, the support she relied upon now laced with doubt. Still, Sarah chose to push on. She put Flávio's teachings to use, attempting to launch a small craft business from her living room. But each step forward felt like hitting a wall. With every failed attempt, despair began whispering, "Who do you think you are?" An eviction notice landed on her doorstep. The walls felt like they were closing in, choking her hope. But then she remembered Maplewood, the neighbors who knew her children by name, the community who had always stood by her side. With a trembling resolve, Sarah reached out. "I need your help," she admitted, vulnerability stripping her of pride. Her neighbors rallied, hosting a fundraiser that filled her with those warm autumn colors she cherished. Hope began to bloom anew amidst the pumpkin patches. Just when things began to turn around, she had an unexpected run-in with Emily. They stood facing each other, the air thick with history, laughter, tears, and unmet expectations hanging over them. "I've never stopped believing in you," Emily finally said, her eyes glistening. "But I fear for you. Fear won't define me." Sarah's voice rang out, reaching deep for her tenacity. She knew they could mend this bridge, but would they? The essence of their friendship lingered in the air like the crisp autumn leaves, both beautiful and fleeting, as Sarah organized her workshop to share Flávio's secrets. The atmosphere buzzed with thrilling anticipation. Could she truly lead her community toward their own transformation? The doubts lingered, sharp edges pressing against her heart. But she had already begun forging new paths. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the scent of cinnamon and the laughter of children filling the air, Sarah took a deep breath, fully aware that this was more than just about her dreams. It was about healing the bonds that mattered. Would reconciliation with Emily light the path to the future, rekindling their friendship in the process? As the day of the workshop approached, everything felt charged with possibility, yet uncertainty gnawed within her. The journey had just begun, and the next chapter was waiting to unfold, beckoning her into uncharted territories filled with promise and change. The morning of the workshop arrived bright and brisk, golden sunlight streaming through Sarah's kitchen window. The aroma of freshly baked cookies danced in the air, mingling with the faint scent of autumn leaves. The little ones bustled around her, excited for their big day. They hopped from one foot to the other, bursting with energy, urging their mom to hurry up. "Are you ready, Mom?" little Jake asked, eyes wide with enthusiasm. It was as if he sensed the significance of this moment. A tiny ball of hope and innocence wrapped in the promise of what could be. "I'm ready, buddy," she replied, heart swelling with a mixture of pride and anxiousness. Today was more than just a workshop, it was a defining moment, a chance to show her children that chasing dreams was possible, no matter the struggles. As they drove to the community center, the streets were lined with trees spilling vibrant reds and yellows, reflecting the shift in her own life. Sarah felt a flicker of recognition in her heart. This was the kind of change she had longed to see. With every turn, doubts tried to creep in, but she pressed them down, reminding herself, this is your moment. At the center, the room buzzed with energy. Each table was adorned with floral arrangements crafted by her neighbors. Laughter filled the air as chairs squeaked against the floor. And there, in the midst of it all, was Emily. As she stood by the coffee machine, the two locked eyes, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Sarah's heart raced. Would this be a new beginning for their friendship? As people began to gather, Sarah felt the familiar weight of uncertainty settle in. Was she really the right person to lead this? But glancing at her children, her beautiful reasons for pushing through the fear ignited something deep within her. She stepped up to the front of the room, feeling the pulse of her community. This was it. "Welcome, everyone." Sarah's voice wavered at first but grew steadier with each word. "Thank you all for being here today." She shared her own journey, the struggles she faced, and how Flavio's teachings had inspired her. Her words fell like gentle rain, cultivating something deep within the hearts of those listening. She saw glimmers of hope reflecting back from their eyes. After sharing the secrets that had transformed her thinking, a quiet buzz of conversation filled the room, echoing the excitement. People shared their dreams, their fears, and slowly began to connect. Sarah could see it, connections forming, confidence building. This was community. This was transformation. But just as momentum surged, an unexpected voice cut through the chatter. "What makes you qualified to teach us?" It was a man in the back, his arms crossed and skepticism etched across his face. A hush fell over the room. Sarah felt her heart skip. Every eye now turned toward her, waiting. Doubt threatened to rise again. Yet, she took a deep breath, recalling her struggles and victories, the warmth of her neighbor's support. "I'm not here as a financial expert," she replied, meeting his gaze. "I'm here as a mother, a member of this community. I believe we can uplift each other and rise together." She didn't know if her answer was enough, but the weight of judgment began to lift as others nodded in agreement. It was a start. At the end of the workshop, Sarah glanced around. Smiles, togetherness. There was hope. Yet in the back of her mind, she couldn't shake off the fear of how fragile this new foundation felt. As she began to wrap things up, she caught Emily's gaze again. Everything hung in the air, unresolved yet charged with possibility. Could they really mend what had broken? The uncertain future loomed ahead of her, filled with both promise and anxiety. What would happen when Sarah took this leap, not just into business, but into healing her heart? With anticipation swirling, she uttered the words that could change everything. "Next week, let us meet again. We can discuss our challenges and our goals together." The echo of the question lingered in the room, leaving everyone, Sarah included, wondering. What would come next? What risks would she take to transform not just her life, but the lives of those around her? The week felt like a blur. Sarah dove into preparations for the next meeting. Nights turned into early mornings as she jotted down notes, hoping to build on the momentum from the first workshop. Ideas danced around her head, but the uncertainty of whether she could really help others dared to pull her down. She worried that doubt would overshadow the trust that was beginning to form among her community. Jake and his sister Lily watched their mother with wide eyes, noticing the thin line of worry that creased her forehead. "Mom, are you okay?" Lily asked one evening as Sarah sat at the kitchen table, lost in thought. "I'm great, sweet pea," she replied, forcing a smile. The truth, however, was more complicated. She needed this to work not just for her, but for everyone who had stood up and shared their dreams. The morning of the next gathering dawned chilly and gray, the sky a concrete blanket that mirrored Sarah's apprehension. She dressed carefully, wearing a soft blue sweater that had always made her feel brighter. It was a small act of defiance against the shadows of doubt creeping in. As she made her way to the community center, Sarah felt the weight of her responsibility. Each moment that passed only intensified her anxiety. But when she arrived, the sight of familiar faces waiting for her washed over her. There was Emily, holding a thermos of coffee, a welcoming smile plastered across her face. The fear that had coiled tightly in her stomach began to loosen. "Hey, I brought some for you," Emily said, handing her the thermos. "You're going to do great today." Sarah felt the warmth of gratitude filling her chest. They exchanged brief glances that hinted at a quiet pact this would be their fresh start. As she stepped up to the front again, she could see the gathering was larger this time, an unexpected wave of support emerging from her neighbors. "Thank you all for coming back," she began, the warmth of their presence grounding her. "I've been thinking a lot about what brings us here." This time, she invited conversation. Instead of lecturing, she became a facilitator, drawing out stories from others. One woman shared her struggle with debt. A man spoke about his dream of starting a small business. The room filled with murmurs of identification and empathy. Each shared tale sparked hope, igniting a sense of camaraderie that made Sarah's heart race in wonder. But just as she felt the tide of honest connection swell, the same skeptical voice echoed from the back. "You're just a mom. Why should we take advice from you?" The room fell into an uneasy silence. Sarah's heart sank as she recognized the familiar wave of doubt rising again. The sting of his words left a bitter taste in her mouth, but she refused to let it drown her newfound sense of purpose. She leaned in, confidence flooding back as she recalled the genuine feelings that had been shared just moments before. "Exactly. I am a mom, and I'm here for my kids, like many of you are here for yours. I'm sharing what I've learned, not as an expert, but as someone who wants to keep growing, just like you." Eyes turned toward the man who had spoken up. Sarah felt a collective hold of breath in the room. Would he lash out again or see the truth in her words? For a heartbeat, the tension was palpable. Then he uncrossed his arms, a hint of respect flashing across his face. Maybe I was wrong to doubt. The shift in the room felt monumental. Laughter and shared experiences rippled across the crowd, knitting them closer together. As Sarah wrapped up that night, she dared to look toward Emily and smiled. Maybe healing could grow from this, maybe trust and friendship could blossom once more. But just as she thought it was the beginning of something new, her phone buzzed with a message. It was from her old boss, asking if she'd consider returning to work. Her heart thumped as she read the words. Could she leave behind this new path she was forming? Did she really want to dive back into the past? The air felt thick with questions, uncertainty flooding her mind. With a nervous breath, she knew she had a choice to make. Was she ready to embrace the unknown, or would she retreat to the comfort of a familiar but unfulfilling life? The future sparked with possibilities and dilemmas. What decision would lead her closer to her dreams, and what would it take to finally choose herself? Sarah stared at her phone, the message from her former boss lighting up the screen. Each word felt heavy with significance, twisting her gut. Memories of late nights and pressure-filled days flooded her mind. Could she really go back to that life? She glanced around the room, still bubbling with energy and hope from the meeting. What was more important? The stability of a paycheck or the fire she felt in her heart, this new role as a mentor in her community? She took a deep breath, trying to center herself. The noise of laughter and chatter echoed in her ears, reminding her of the connection she'd forged. The familiar faces radiated with the warmth of shared struggles and triumphs. This was her new reality, wasn't it? Or was it merely a detour on the way back to her old job? "Hey, you all right?" Emily's voice broke through her thoughts, concern etched on her face. "Yeah, just thinking." Sarah's mind raced back to the weight of her responsibilities. "I received a message from my old boss. They want me back." Emily's brow furrowed. "Is that something you want?" "I don't know," Sarah admitted, her voice shaking as she processed her own conflicting emotions. "I'm scared of what I'd be giving up if I go back. But I also worry about what happens if this doesn't work out. Sometimes we have to take risks, Emily said gently. You've got something special happening here. Look around. These people believe in you. You have to believe in yourself, too. Her words echoed in Sarah's mind, stirring something deep inside. Maybe this was about more than just her success. This was about creating a space for others, nurturing a community where everyone could uplift each other. Just then, Jake and Lily rushed into the center, their cheeks flushed from the cold air outside. Mom, can we stay a little longer? Jake begged. Yeah, it's fun. Everyone is talking and laughing. Lily chimed in, bouncing on her toes. Of course. Sarah smiled, the pull of her children a grounding force. They added depth to her decision. She wanted to show them that pursuing dreams often required overcoming fear. Not just for herself, but for their future. As the gathering began to wind down, Sarah gathered her notes and glanced up at the crowd. The sense of community she'd worked to build felt tangible. She excitedly replayed the connections that had formed, thinking of the stories that had been shared. But just as relief began to settle over her, her phone buzzed again. It was another message this time, from an acquaintance she hadn't seen in years. They were asking if she'd be interested in helping with a community project. The timing felt uncanny. Sarah's heart raced at the prospect. Would she be stepping into the light, or would this simply add to the weight on her shoulders? Do I really want to go back? She whispered to herself, feeling the certainty slip just out of reach again. Emily caught her gaze, tilting her head. What is it? A project, something that could pull me deeper into this community, Sarah said slowly, unsure of how to piece her thoughts into a coherent picture. Sounds like an opportunity, Emily replied, eyes brightening. What if it's exactly what you need to anchor yourself here? You could make a real difference. The possibilities began to unfurl in Sarah's mind, but the tension of her earlier choices hung overhead like a storm cloud ready to break. What if this was the moment she'd been waiting for? The push she needed to commit fully to a path she believed was right. But another thought lurked in her mind. Would accepting the project drive her further away from the stability her family relied on? As the evening wound down, an uneasy mix of excitement and anxiety filled her chest. The future lay ahead like an open road, but she had to decide whether to drive toward it or turn back to what she once knew. With heart racing, she grasped the phone tightly in her hand and made a choice that could alter everything. Would she boldly accept the invitation to help her community, or would she surrender to the past once more? The decision rested heavily on her shoulders just as the evening darkened outside. Her fingers hovered over the screen, uncertainty flickering in her chest. What awaited her on the other side? Before she pressed send, a thought struck her. Perhaps the true risk lay not in reaching for new dreams, but in clinging too tightly to an old life. Sarah took a deep breath, her gaze darting between her glowing phone and the vibrant scene around her. Laughter filled the room, ringing with a richness that felt almost foreign. She could taste the sweetness of possibility mixed with the bitterness of doubt. The message from her acquaintance dangled like a key, promising entry into a world she longed to be part of, yet feared. What if this community project was the spark she needed to ignite a new journey? The thought sent a thrill through her, but it was quickly chased away by the shadow of her past. The pressure of her old job loomed large, a suffocating cloak she feared she might slide back into. Mom, can we help with the project too? Jake's voice pulled her from her hesitation, eyes shining with eagerness. Lily chimed in, yeah, we could do it together. It would be fun. Their innocent enthusiasm pulled at Sarah's heartstrings. They saw the world through a lens of hope and excitement, an outlook she yearned to share with them. What would it say to her children if she turned away from this opportunity? Well, Sarah's voice trailed off as she contemplated the weight of her decision. Could you teach us something cool? Jake encouraged. His words flicked a switch inside her. Suddenly, she envisioned not just herself stepping into the project, but her family weaving through the work together. It could become a shared experience, a way to bond and grow. Determined, Sarah looked at Emily, searching for affirmation. If I say yes, I want to include the kids. I want them to be a part of this. Do you think it's a good idea? Emily grinned. Absolutely. It sounds like a dream. You can create a space for them to learn and grow while doing the same for the community. A win-win. The notion bloomed in Sarah's heart, filling her with warmth. Generating a ripple effect of goodwill in their community could mean creating a legacy for Jake and Lily, something deeper than just her career or the fear of returning to her old job. As she weighed her options, a sense of purpose began to clarify her tangled thoughts. It wasn't just about going back to work. It was about defining what work meant to her now. And she realized, it didn't have to look like her past, it could be something entirely new. With renewed confidence, she settled her fingers on the phone, ready to hit send. But just as she poised herself to make the move, her phone buzzed again. Her heart raced, a new message from a mentor she had learned so much from in the past. Hey Sarah, I heard about the project. I think it could carry deeper meaning beyond what you anticipate. Would you like to discuss it further? The unexpected message sent a jolt through her, reigniting her swirling thoughts. Could it be a sign? She took a step back, pausing to breathe in the moment. Maybe this is what I was meant to find, Sarah whispered, staring at the screen. Every nerve in her body tingled with anticipation. She tapped a response to her mentor. I'd love to talk more. When can we meet? As she sent it off, Sarah glanced around the room again. There was warmth in these walls, a raw energy of connection she hadn't realized she needed. She could feel her heart pounding, not just from the excitement of her risks, but from the feeling of finally leaning into her own journey. What awaited her in these uncharted waters? The future felt daunting but filled with endless possibilities. As the gathering began to wrap up, the anticipation hummed in the air. Sarah looked at Emily, her children, and the other faces around her. This is just the beginning, she smiled boldly, as lights dimmed and laughter echoed off the walls. The warmth of resolve swelled within her. She would step into this new role. Yet, one question lingered: was she ready for the unexpected challenges this project could unveil? As she embraced the possibilities ahead, an edge of uncertainty lingered, waiting to be uncovered. Would she soar or stumble in her next steps? The sun dipped low in the sky, casting golden rays that filtered through the trees surrounding her neighborhood. Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose flow through her veins, as she imagined the coming days filled with the promise of the community project. She glanced at her phone once more, half expecting another message from her mentor, but nothing came. A small pang of disappointment flickered within, quickly overshadowed by excitement. Let us get home, guys. I think we have some big plans ahead, she said, her voice lively with newfound determination. Jake and Lily beamed at her enthusiasm, their little faces glowing as they skipped ahead. Once they arrived home, Sarah gathered her children around the kitchen table. The scent of fresh cookies filled the air, and she pulled out some crayons and paper. Okay, let us brainstorm. What could we do together for our project? Jake jumped right in. We could plant flowers. I want to grow sunflowers. They're the biggest. Lily nodded vigorously. And maybe we can build a birdhouse. We can teach the birds to come visit us. As they rattled off ideas, Sarah felt the anticipation surge within her. It was more than just a project. It could become a pillar of their family bond. With every suggestion, she could see the excitement in their eyes, and it grounded her. This was more than just about her stepping into a new role. It was about cultivating a passion that her kids could inherit. Still, a flicker of doubt nagged at the back of her mind. What if things didn't go as planned? What if the project was overwhelming? These thoughts faded fast when she saw the joy radiating from Jake and Lily. They needed this camaraderie as much as she did. They needed to feel involved, to discover their capabilities outside the comforts of their routine. An hour later, the table was beautifully decorated with colorful drawings of flowers, birds, and various whimsical ideas. They laughed, talked, and even imagined how happy the community would be to participate. Sarah's heart swelled with joy as she listened to their visions. Just then, her phone buzzed with another notification. This time, it was from her mentor responding with a time to meet. Wow, guys! Looks like I'll be meeting up with Mr. Grayson tomorrow to discuss the project further. Will you bring him to see what we came up with? Jake asked, his eyes wide with hope. I can definitely share our ideas, Sarah replied, smiling. But remember, this is our project as a family. We're all a part of it, no matter what. That night, as she tucked her kids into bed, she felt the weight of her fears shift to a sense of exhilaration. The uncertainties felt less stinging, overshadowed by a growing belief in stepping into this new journey for herself and her family. However, as Sarah settled into bed, ready to drift off to sleep, she couldn't shake an unsettling feeling. What if Mr. Grayson had different expectations? What if he didn't embrace the ideas they had crafted? Would that change everything? The excitement of tomorrow danced in her mind, but so did the anxiety of potential rejection. A deep breath escaped her lips as she turned off the light, surrendering to the night. Sleep came, but rest was elusive. The questions circled around her like autumn leaves caught in the wind. How would this meeting unfold? Was she truly prepared for the challenges ahead? Tomorrow would bring answers, but it was tinged with the fear of the unknown. As she fell into a restless slumber, another question bubbled to the surface: how would she navigate these new waters, especially if they got rocky? Morning light seeped through the curtains, painting soft lines across Sarah's face. She opened her eyes to the sound of Jake and Lily already bustling around in the kitchen. The aroma of toast and fresh fruit wafted through the air, a sweet invitation to kickstart the day. "Morning, Mom," Jake called out, his voice bubbling with cheer. "We're all set for the big meeting. Yeah. We can't wait to show Mr. Grayson everything," Lily chimed in, her eyes wide and sparkling with excitement. Sarah felt warmth spread through her chest. Their enthusiasm was contagious. It momentarily drowned out the nagging doubts that had haunted her all night. She pulled on her favorite sweater, hoping it would provide her some comfort as she joined her children as they gathered around the breakfast table. Sarah couldn't help but feel a wave of nostalgia wash over her. Memories of her own childhood filled with projects and dreams bubbled up, intertwining with the joy she felt in nurturing her kids' imaginations. "Okay, team," she said, smiling. "Before we head out, let us quickly review what we want to share with Mr. Grayson. Who wants to start?" With eager hands shooting up in the air, Jake blurted, "I'll explain about the sunflowers. They'll make such a great spot for everyone to look at. And I'll talk about the birdhouse," Lily chimed in, bouncing on her chair. "We can encourage more birds to come to our neighborhood." They went back and forth, rehearsing their lines, and Sarah couldn't help but marvel at how naturally they had taken ownership of the project. She felt a swell of pride but a nervous flutter in her stomach too. How would they take all these beautiful ideas to someone who held the reins of the project as success? After breakfast, Sarah quickly gathered their drawings and sketches, tucking them neatly into a folder. The delightful chaos of the morning faded to a tremor of seriousness as she grabbed her purse and glanced at her watch. Time was ticking away. "Let us get moving," she said, urging the kids towards the door. "We want to ensure we're on time." As they walked, the sun was just beginning to take its position high in the sky, lighting up the path ahead. The energy around them felt vibrant. Sarah couldn't help but imagine her future, what this project could mean for her community and her family. Would this help solidify her role, not just as a mother but as a community leader? When they reached the community center, a low buzz of chatter filled the air. It felt alive, ready for the excitement that would soon unfold. Sarah led the kids through the doors, her heart pounding like a drum. "Stay close," she warned, the flurry of adults moving swiftly around them overwhelming her. A few moments later, they spotted Mr. Grayson, standing confidently at a table piled high with paperwork. Spotting Sarah, he waved, his smile welcoming but his demeanor all business. "Ah, Sarah," he said, stepping forward. "I'm glad you could make it. I was just going over the project details with some other volunteers." As he extended his hand for a shake, Sarah quickly glanced at her children. Their faces were a mixture of excitement and apprehension. They were ready, but would Mr. Grayson be receptive? "Mr. Grayson, these are my children, Jake and Lily," she introduced, feeling an unfamiliar swell of pride. "They've been helping me brainstorm ideas for the project." "Great. I'd love to hear what you three have come up with," he said, a flicker of curiosity in his eye. Sarah opened her mouth to speak, but doubt settled heavy in her gut. She felt the pull of the unknown, a combination of hope and fear. Could they really make a difference together? With a deep breath, she turned to her kids, ready to let them share their visions. But just as Jake began to speak, a small voice from the back called out, interrupting. "Wait, I have some ideas too." Sarah's heart raced as she turned to see a girl she didn't recognize stepping forward. The challenge hung in the air like an unturned stone. What would this unexpected new voice change about their moment? The girl stepped forward, her hair tied back in a messy ponytail and a drawing clutched tightly in her hands. Sarah sensed the sudden shift in energy, the curiosity from the crowd growing like a wave about to crash. She couldn't ignore the urgency of it. The little girl's confidence was buzzing. Infectious. "Hi, I'm Mia," she said, her voice small but clear. "I think we could plant some vegetables along with the flowers. It would be like a garden for everyone to share." Jake blinked, clearly taken aback by her interruption, and even Lily tilted her head, intrigued. Sarah felt her heart melt a bit. Mia had added a new layer, a thoughtful twist to their project. Not just flowers, but vegetables, an idea that breathed life into community involvement. "Green gardens are great. We could make it a place where families can come together, right?" Mia continued, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "If we get kids involved, they could help with the planting and then learn about how to take care of the earth." As the chatter of adults faded momentarily, Sarah couldn't help but admire this stranger. Perhaps Mia was exactly the voice they needed, a reminder that there was power in collaboration, even among strangers. Mr. Grayson's expression shifted into a more thoughtful one. "That's a fantastic idea, Mia. A community garden could really bring everyone together. Each of you has such unique perspectives. Let us explore how this could work." Jake's brow furrowed, caught between pride in his original idea and the excitement building around Mia's contribution. Lily, ever the peacemaker, leaned toward Jake. "We can do both. Sunflowers and veggies. It'll be the best garden." Sarah looked at her children, then at Mia, then back to Mr. Grayson. A rush of emotions swelled within her. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was a shared vision, now an embodiment of community spirit, bringing together kids from different backgrounds for a common cause. "Okay, if we are all in this together, let us brainstorm some more," Sarah said, sensing momentum. "Mia, could you show us your drawing? Let us add it to our ideas." Mia nodded, a bright smile illuminating her face as she approached the table. She laid down her crumpled design, revealing a colorful layout with sunflowers dancing beside lush squares for vegetables. The image was vibrant, reflecting not just plants, but hope and connection. As they all huddled closer to the drawing, the atmosphere lightened. Voices became a harmonious mix of chatter and laughter as they worked together. It was clear now the project was evolving into something even bigger than Sarah had ever imagined. Yet deep down, a nagging unease nestled in her mind. Had she unintentionally overlooked the desires of others? Was this community collaboration truly inclusive, or was it simply a blend of the loudest voices? The excitement of everyone around her did little to silence those thoughts. Sarah's heart raced again, but this time it was different. It was a mix of anticipation and the fear of derailing this newfound unity. "Let us make sure everyone feels included," Sarah suddenly suggested, her voice steadying as she looked around the group. "We can create a board for everyone to contribute their ideas, their voices." As heads nodded in agreement, Sarah took a moment to connect with Mia. The girl beamed back at her, radiating determination and inclusiveness that reminded Sarah of the very essence of community. But just as they began to sketch out plans, a loud crash echoed from the back. A table toppled over, causing heads to turn in alarm. The room fell silent as everyone's attention shifted. "What was that?" Jake whispered, his eyes wide. Before Sarah had time to respond, a voice pierced through the confusion. "I needed to make my point." And there stood a tall boy with wild hair, a mischievous grin plastered across his face. What had he planned to say that required such a dramatic entrance? The air was thick with curiosity as the boy swaggered forward, a cheeky confidence radiating from him. He pushed his wild hair back, revealing bright, mischievous eyes that sparkled with mischief. A sense of impending chaos clung to him, and Sarah instinctively held her breath. "What's your name?" Mr. Grayson asked, raising an eyebrow. "Tyler," the boy announced, puffing out his chest. "And if we're talking about a community garden, we need to get serious. Like, really serious." Sarah could feel the tension in the room shift again. Kids leaned in, drawn to the promise of excitement in Tyler's tone. Mia glanced at him, curiosity etched on her small face. "Seems like you have some ideas, Tyler." Jake chimed in, perhaps a little too enthusiastic in trying to ease the sudden tension. "What do you think we should do?" Tyler flashed a grin that could light up a room. "We should have cool stuff, like how about a pumpkin train? Everyone loves pumpkins." He made a train gesture with his arms and some kids giggled. "What's a pumpkin train?" Lily asked, her head tilting in confusion. "It's like a little train made of pumpkins. Kids can ride it, and it could be a part of our garden event next fall. Imagine the parents picking pumpkins and the kids having a blast. We could even have a scarecrow contest." The giddy excitement spread like wildfire. Sarah exchanged glances with Mia, who smiled wide and whispered, "That's a cool idea. Wow, Tyler, that sounds fun. We could have a harvest festival." Mia said, her earlier enthusiasm merging with Tyler's extravagant vision. "Now we're talking," Tyler shouted, his voice brimming with excitement. "And we need a giant banner that says something awesome, like, 'Welcome to the coolest garden in town.'" The room erupted with laughter and chatter as everyone tossed around their own ideas. Tyler seemed to ignite something in the group. The garden was no longer just a collection of plants. It was an adventure, a shared experience waiting to unfold. But Sarah's earlier unease lurked in the background. Would all these ideas clash? What about the quieter kids? Would they be heard beneath the noise? "Okay, let us jot these down," Sarah called, her motherly instincts kicking in. "We need someone to write everything down so we don't miss any ideas. We want everyone's input." A chorus of suggestions erupted as some kids scrambled for paper and pens. Tyler's face brightened. He thrived on the buzz of excitement, feeding off their energy as they began to write down ideas. Sarah caught Mia's eye. The girl was overflowing with hope and determination. Sarah felt a surge of pride for the young girl and the group, realizing they were creating something beautiful together. Just then, a knock echoed ominously from the open door. The kids turned, their energy dimming slightly. A stern-looking woman stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her eyes scanning the chaos within the room. "Excuse me, but what's happening here?" she demanded, her tone leaving little room for playfulness. The room fell silent in an instant. Tyler's confidence began to waver, and everyone exchanged nervous glances. Sarah took a deep breath, sensing this could be a turning point. Was this woman a challenger to their creative spark? "Ma'am," she said, stepping forward, "we're just working on a community garden project. Would you like to join us?" But before Sarah could finish her thought, the woman interrupted. "I need to talk to whoever is in charge. This may not be the right place for..." Whatever this is, what would she say next, and how would it impact their growing vision of unity? The tension in the air shifted, and all eyes turned to Sarah as she stood tall, heart racing. She felt the collective breath of the children behind her, each one tuned into the unexpected atmosphere of uncertainty. The stern woman's presence felt imposing, like a cloud threatening to rain on their blossoming ideas. "Ma'am," Sarah repeated steadily, "I'm Sarah, and we're planning a community project, not just a garden, but a gathering place for everyone to come together and share their stories." A few hesitant murmurs broke out among the kids. They were eager, their bright faces reflecting the hope they had just been feeling moments ago. But the woman remained unmoved, her arms crossed tighter. "Look, I appreciate community projects, but you do realize this space is reserved for formal meetings, right?" "You'll need permission," she replied coolly. The weight of her words struck like a cold breeze across Sarah's heart. Yet she refused to let it extinguish the spark igniting within her community. "I understand that. We weren't aware, but we've gathered ideas that mean a lot to these kids and many others. she said gently, nodding toward the vibrant crowd. Just behind her, Jake whispered, "Mom, what if she says no?" His small voice trembled with uncertainty, and Sarah's heart ached seeing him retreat into doubt. But looking back at the woman, Sarah felt a swell of determination rise within her. Every voice matters, even if we're just getting started. If we come together as a community, imagine what we can create. This is about nurturing unity, bringing joy, and inspiring hope through this garden. The woman's expression softened, albeit just a touch. Sarah could see her processing the energy of the children surrounding her and the contagious hope radiating from the room. "You think just planting flowers will do that?" she asked, a hint of curiosity breaking through her stern facade. "More than flowers," Sarah replied, risking vulnerability. "It's about planting dreams, building friendships, and creating a space where kids like Jake and Lily can thrive. We want every kid to feel they belong." There was a pause, a slackening of her posture. Sarah, sensing a small crack in the woman's demeanor, pressed on. "Join us. Be part of this vision. Help us find the right way to make this happen." The air felt electric as hesitation began to fade. A flicker of understanding crossed the woman's eyes. As if realizing she held power in this moment, she stepped closer, curiosity yielding to intrigue. "All right," she said slowly, "but this needs a proper plan. You'll need to outline your intentions and gather community support before moving forward." The anticipation in the room was palpable. Encouragement surged as children began to cheer, their earlier anxiety slipping away. Sarah sensed the laughter rising, the excitement reigniting like embers in a fire. "I'll get a proposal together," Sarah promised, her heart buoyed by a newfound sense of purpose. "Together we'll create something greater." The woman nodded, giving a subtle smile. It wasn't a full embrace of their ideas, but it was the spark they needed. As the group began discussing logistics, Sarah felt the weight of possibility land squarely on her shoulders. She turned to see Mia, who had been listening intently, eyes wide with admiration. "You were awesome, Sarah," Mia exclaimed, her voice bright. "You really believed in us." Sarah knelt down to Mia's eye level, holding her gaze with warmth. "No, sweetheart, it's all of us together. It's about believing in one another." In that moment, as smiles spread and ideas swirled like leaves in the autumn breeze, Sarah knew this wasn't just a plan to create a garden anymore. They were cultivating something deeper: community, belonging, the very fabric that held their lives together. As the meeting concluded and parents began to trickle in, Sarah felt a new chapter unfurling before her. The worries that had gnawed at her faded like shadows in the warmth of the evening sun. That night, she gathered her kids in a circle under the twinkling stars outside their home. "We did it," she smiled, their laughter filling the night with joy. "Tomorrow we'll sketch out our formal plans and we'll involve everyone." Jake wrapped his tiny arms around her waist. "Can we plant sunflowers first?" "Definitely," Sarah smiled, feeling the full weight of her heart, no longer burdened but overflowing with hope and connection. As they all snuggled together under the stars, she realized those dreams were beginning to bloom. They were becoming a reality together. And for the first time, the future sparkled with promise, not anxiety. Now, more than ever, Sarah believed in the magic of possibilities, a journey well worth taking. This is your moment too. Don't just sit there. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this transformation, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiration. You need to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second.